We have a new sponsor of Adspend. Do you hate money? Well, if you hate money, you're going to hate retention.com. If you love money, you're going to love retention.com. And you're going to hear a little bit more about them later in the show, but you can go sign up right at retention.com if you can't wait till then. Enjoy the episode of Adspend exclusively on the Triple Whale Network.
If you are the coolest kid in high school and then you go into the NBA the next day, odds are either you are LeBron James or you're out of the league. The problem is you're designing your test to set up that you still have no confidence with that data. It might be really good, but it's not doing good at a scalable level. But it is better than just running the wheel of the hamster wheel of more and more creative tests.
All right, folks, welcome back to your favorite D2C podcast. And boy, do we got one. When I told Melwani about this, I threw it by him. I said, hey, Chuck T wants to come on. What you think? And Melwani said, hell yeah. So here we are, the man with the plan, the best dyed hair and nails in the game, a fantastic LA villa. For folks that don't know, Charlie has a beautiful pool. We're in this big group text, and he kept us privy to all the updates. One caveat, building a pool was a little bit more expensive than it seems to be, but hey, you know, that's why we're here, folks, to print the money. And as always, my partner in crime, the slanger of the collagen, the shipper of the campaigns, the best looking Indian on the internet, Ashvin Melwani. Ash, how you doing, brother?
Good, brother. How are we doing?
Really, really good. So I think you're going to drive this one a little more than past ones. You have a pretty cool idea in terms of kind of going through three general testing frameworks that you had come across, right?
Yeah, I think let me just get into it, right? So these are all frameworks that I've personally tested myself. Still trying to figure out what the best structure is and what makes sense for our business, right? But I do think there is definitely pros and cons to almost everything, right?
Yep.
And so Charlie here, I think, is one of the brightest minds when it comes to understanding how meta systems actually work, right? I want to go in through all the pros and cons of everything because I do think that there are some, structures that perform better than others. But I want you to kind of dive in and kind of explain why you think that is, right, the case. So let's, I guess in no particular order, probably one of the most popular account structures, right, is you have a testing campaign and a scaling campaign, right? So yep. The theory here is, you got new creatives that come in every week. You set up a test campaign, set it on broad, let it run for 7 days. Hey, you got a winner. Cool. Let's toss it into this scaling campaign, right? That for a while is what a lot of people are doing. That's what I was doing for a while. There's a lot of nuances there that to me sometimes work, sometimes doesn't, right? And Charlie, I think you can agree to this, that the sometimes doesn't is the issue with this account structure, right? So say, for example, you're testing 4 or 5 creatives in its own environment at a low budget. You move it into this big campaign and it's this like the big boys. Can this new ad compete with the big boys, or does it completely mess up the entire structure, right? So Charlie, take it from here. Give us the pros and cons. What do you feel about the structure? Why do you think it's so popular, and what should people really be focusing on?
Yeah, well, thanks. And by the way, Rob, if you're in LA next week, Cannonball,
I'm coming. I know. I'm coming for for GeekX.
I'm looking at the pool right now. It is warm. I got a hot tub. It can be heated, bro.
You got your fancy little fireplace thing. I mean,
just saying,
chef's kiss. The place is impeccable.
To get down to the nitty-gritty here, I'm setting a timer so I don't rant for too long. Because I care, people. I care. So that being said, boom.
Hold on, can I stop you for a second? The Charlie Redemption Tour is working. Never in a million years would you ever put a timer for your rants. I love this. Whatever you do, it's working. Keep it going. Okay, sorry, proceed.
I'm trying. All right. Start. There we go. Okay, so first thing, why is it popular? Well, it's a very old strategy that absolutely works, and it comes from CPC and inventory-based platforms. So, for instance, if you're doing display or you're doing taboola or you're doing landing page testing, something along that lines, we have a set inventory, or say you're buying on a CPM basis for banner ads on like CNN or MTV or something like that. This is absolutely the way to go because the CPM is a constant cost and because you don't have control over the environment. So the inventory is a constant. So if the inventory is a constant, you're just testing to see what gets you the best result. So in that way, it absolutely makes sense to isolate your variables, see what works, and then amplify the one that does the best. The problem is, at its core, Facebook is not that. And it really hasn't ever been that. It is an optimized CPM environment, optimizing for the end user experience. So at its very core, the DNA of that test, where it comes from, is something that Facebook doesn't do. And part of the reason Facebook is so successful is because Facebook itself is predicated on using a completely different type of technology. So with that being said, a testing method for something that's obsolete, that isn't built for how the code is written, doesn't really make a lot of sense. The second pain point here is that I think most people have the mistaken opinion that your testing starts in your testing campaign, but it doesn't. Your testing campaign is seeing what lottery ticket do you want to actually install to your scaling campaign, and your test doesn't actually start until it hits that scaling campaign because it doesn't actually have to spend any meaningful money until it hits there. So you're pulling lottery tickets to see what you think your best chance is to actually start your creative test with. But you're saying, well, it's not total lottery. I've got wins, I've got losses, spent money for 7 days, launched 50 ads. Okay, great. Your winner had what? 3 sales? 5? 10? How many salesmen were doing door-to-door sales inside of that neighborhood where 17 people knocked on the same door every single day? Which one got lucky the most? Is that anything at $50 a day, $500 a day, that you want to spend $5,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 a day on? For me, that's a very low integrity data set built on a non-actionable set of data that I'm then risking the stability of my business on. And I think the other part of that too is because you're launching so many tests, how many different types of attention are you bringing into your store? Like any landing page test that you run, as soon as you change the ad or the targeting, basically becomes obsolete. So you're making every after the click optimization effectively null and void just so that you can spend the majority of your money developing losers that raises your cost of advertising across the platform. So you can then take a lottery ticket and bet your entire business on and your standard operating procedures to do that faster and faster, more and more and more. And I don't see anybody saying that also isn't saying things like, I'm having trouble scaling or Facebook is getting more expensive. And really, it's not that you're having trouble scaling and Facebook isn't getting more expensive. It's that you're creating more harm and reducing the quality of the relationship with the platform. So as a result, it's less effective for you, which on a surface makes complete sense as far as I see.
Okay, so a lot of points there. When you're saying it's kind of like this lottery ticket where you're like, all right, I'm tossing up some ads, it's getting some sales, and it's like, okay, it's producing some, decent CPA, but why would you toss that into something where you've been running a ton of money and you're spending, 50, 100K on with the big boys, right? What if, and I think the example you use, like, okay, this ad maybe got 5, 10, 20 sales. What if this ad has been running for quite a bit? What if you do have a substantial amount of budget that you've allocated towards testing where maybe that campaign does have, 2 weeks worth of data that, as you start to scale it up, in its own environment, it is producing results where, okay, I know that this has now gone maybe 50 to 100 conversions, not just 5, 10, or 20. It has a bunch of data, and then moving that over, right? What's the I guess the cons of doing that, or why is that bad?
No, and I think there you're starting to leverage you're getting closer to the idea of I don't have a steady, like I'm running 50 creatives for a week, right? You're starting to hedge your bet by saying the things that win, I'm going to keep on. So I like it. You're moving further and further away from letting basically luck be your KPI. But we also have, so that's better. I would say on average, when I see accounts set up like that are doing that testing campaign generally doesn't either one or two things are happening. One, that testing campaign doesn't take the lion's share of the budget. So it's like 500 out of 5K, or it's like, 10K out of 50,000. Like, it's a percentage. So even something that gets 75% of the pocket change and it's winning, that is no indication of what's going to happen when it gets access to 80%. If you are the coolest kid in high school and then you go into the NBA the next day, odds are either you are LeBron James or you're out of the league. The problem is, like, you're designing your test to set up that I'm never, you still have no confidence with that data. It might be really good, but it's not doing good at a scalable level. But it is better than just running the hamster wheel of more and more creative tests. So I like it. It's better.
So what is the pushback of moving it into that scale campaign and then seeing how it performs?
I think my biggest issue there is, one, at best, what you've done is you set something up you have a lot of confidence with. I'm going to actually start a creative test with this asset. You're just still hedging your bet before the bet actually starts. The problem is it's also in direct competition with, so it's not competing for in like a CBO environment where Facebook is choosing which bucket to put in money in. This is just a separate bucket. So it's a competitor. It's not complementary. So you also don't have any idea of how it's impacting your business after the click. You have no idea if it's a prospecting, retargeting, where it's going to fit in the mix. And you don't really have a good idea of how it's affecting your incremental results, off Facebook. So it's a much higher confidence way of testing things, but you're still sitting at a spot where I have no idea what this winner actually means to my business. And hey, look, probably, at least half the time or more, it's going to be good for you. And then at that point, my pushback is, well, great. So it took you 3 weeks to identify a winner that could have been a banger on day 3. Like, if it is that good, the opportunity cost is massive. So, I mean, if it's great, why not let it be great? And so if you wasted 90% of your budget to find something that's good and then takes you a month to get there, you could have had that success forever ago. And cash flow is king. You wasted 20, 30 days, then get something that then has to start and ultimately becomes a winner. That's a huge liability.
The summary here is that instead of testing it separately and the hopes that you find this winner or whatever it is, that would have been proven if you were to directly test that against the big winners right off the bat. And if it was, you've cut down the timing that it needs to actually test something, and you've kind of like you just said, 3 weeks to get 50 to 100 conversions on a testing campaign versus let me just stick this in another ad set in a CBO that's scaled up to 10, 20K a day. And if it does get the spend and it is converting, I already know that it has the legs to compete at that level. That sounds like it's a cash flow and a time thing.
And opportunity cost.
Yeah, the opportunity cost. And I think the other thing that I didn't really mention there, but I feel like it's implied, but maybe it's not, because I have this conversation constantly in like consulting calls with people in the MBA program and just folks that book on my calendar. What if that ad has a bad CPA? Is that bad for you? The answer might be no. Like, I was just on a call with somebody earlier, like half an hour before this. These kids that are doing some great stuff, and like their bad ad gets all the spend, and as soon as they turn it off, their search volume goes down by like 20%, their email on take rate goes down by like 5 or 10. As soon as they turn that bad ad off, they lose a ton of money. Because Facebook shouldn't be your source of revenue. Facebook is a business model amplification device. You are buying attention. And your job as a business operator is to monetize that attention the most effective way. And if you are relying only on Facebook to do that, you are relying on one of the worst exchange rates possible as an investment banker. And very few people get rich buying really expensive money.
So what you're saying then is the opportunity cost and the time to decision that naturally emanates from a testing campaign is not that valuable. It's much better to throw somebody in the fire. Can you go kill and get me conversions or what have you? And then from that, because I don't have a testing campaign per se, I'm also adhering to an axiom of simplification, where I just have this amazing campaign that I can just chuck these killers into, and then you either swim or die. And if you swim, here's more money, go buy a boat.
Yeah, because you know 3 things to be true. Number 1, if it doesn't earn spend, it's not good. I don't care what you think about it. I don't care what your creative director said. I don't give a damn what anybody said about it. It doesn't earn spend. It doesn't meet your business partner's objectives.
Yep.
It's a liability to your relationship and buying attention, and then your business model of monetizing it. So it's net negative for you.
To summarize that, right? To say that in layman's terms, this ad, these 4 new ads that I had my creative team put out, this and that, hooks, discovery, research, that ad against what I've been running for the last 2-3 weeks at 100K spend, this and that, does not compete against these 3. Why bother even tossing it in there? That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, when you do toss it in, it basically, Rob and I are fantasy football league. Someone use a fantasy football, use a fantasy football term. As a wide receiver, target share is earned. You get thrown the ball because you're good. Now, there's a bunch of things that can happen, but good wide receivers get thrown the ball roughly 25% of the time or more.
Sorry for the sporty ball analogies if you're not in sports. So wide receiver is the person that lines up outside. They're usually tall and really good catchers, and they can run really fast. I was just going to push back and say that I think that you actually get targeted not because you're good, because the quarterback prefers to throw to you. A lot of times the quarterback prefers to throw to you. Why? Because you're good. So I think you have the causation inverted, because at the end of the day, Facebook is the quarterback. And if you're good, they're going to throw you way more impressions cheaper than this other receiver that possibly could score a touchdown and have this Tyreek Hill style speed, but I don't know if they're going to catch it. So I'm going to actually go to this other person that I know I can rely on to catch.